Hey guys, and welcome back to r/EntitledPeople. We've got some more Reddit posts for you today, so be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Entitled mother wanted my baby to trap her boyfriend. A few years ago, after dropping out of college and having to move back in with my entitled mother, because of financial reasons stemming from my mother, I found out I was pregnant. 5 months pregnant, 19 and single. Scary, right? So I went to my mother and told her, because I didn't really know what else to do. The first thing out of her mouth, verbatim, was, "Oh, this is perfect. Can I have it?" Obviously, I thought that I had heard wrong, or that she was just screwing with me because what the hell? But no, I had heard her perfectly. She went on about how she thought her new boyfriend was gonna break up with her, and that since he was a widow because his wife and child died during childbirth, he wouldn't leave her if she got pregnant. On the spot, she pitched this elaborately stupid plan of us hiding my pregnancy and then passing my baby off as her own, as if we didn't live in the same city as all our family. Basically, I told her she was crazy, and we went back and forth for a bit before she threw a full-blown tantrum, screaming about how ungrateful I was and why couldn't I just do this one thing for her, and stormed off and locked herself in her room, where she promptly went on her phone and aired out my entire situation on Facebook. Well, within the hour, both sides of my family knew. My father, equally an entitled a-hole, but separated from my mother, showed up with his girlfriend at my door and informed me that they had already set up an appointment for the following week with a local adoption agency, and that they knew I'd, quote, do the right thing, which I did, by packing my shit and couch hopping with friends for a bit, until I got on my feet. This honestly wasn't the worst thing my entitled mother has ever done to me. But it was definitely the turning point to realizing I didn't want or trust her around myself or my child. Anyway, I haven't really talked to or seen either of my parents since, and now have a charming 3-year-old boy and a lovely fiance, so life is much better. Imagine finding out your own daughter is pregnant and the first thing you think of is to use that baby as a tool to trick your own boyfriend. And even doing it because you know it would probably work, due to his terrible past of already losing a wife and a child, and deciding to use his trauma to your own advantage. That is beyond screwed up. And also, how does she think he would even fall for it? Would she somehow just pretend to be pregnant and pretend to give birth, and think that it would actually trick him? She probably did not really think this through. HOA tried to punish us, told us to stop them if we can. This happened several years ago and is a multi-year-long story. I'll keep it as succinct as possible. We installed cameras in front of our home that were looking at our vehicles. Part of the camera angles did overlook part of 2 neighbors' properties, one backyard and one side yard. The cameras were battery operated and had a function where you could gray out areas that you didn't want to film. When motion occurred in the grayed out areas, the cameras would not be activated to film. The neighbors' entire properties and several bushes on our property were grayed out. We did this when installing them. One of the neighbors was a friend and had no issues with this whatsoever. We showed her the camera angle, and she said she didn't care whether or not we grayed out that area. We still left it grayed out over battery life concerns. The other neighbor's name was Karen. Not really, but we all know why I chose that name. Karen was on the HOA board, and as you can imagine, we didn't get along with Karen or the HOA board. We told Karen about the camera and showed her the grayed out areas at the same time that we told our friendly neighbor about it. It was simply an FYI conversation. We are not on friendly terms, not an asking permission conversation. She told us to take the cameras down immediately or we would regret it. About a week after we hung the camera up, we got a notice from our HOA that we were violating the bylaws. The bylaw in question? A nuisance to your neighbor's bylaw. There wasn't a specific bylaw preventing placement of cameras, so this is all they could find to try to punish us. We responded with a letter detailing how we were not violating any bylaws or laws in general, and asked them to cease and desist. We all know how these stories go though. They did not cease, and they did not desist. Their first response? The HOA has the right to enforce these bylaws. Try to stop us if you think you can. These types of responses were unfortunately quite common from this board. We entered this battle with one goal in mind, to cost them as much money and time as possible. The HOA hired a lawyer specifically to fight us. To my knowledge, this has not happened to any other residents. In the following 4 months, we ended up costing the HOA over $4,000 in lawyers' fees fighting this battle. For reference, the entire HOA income was around $25,000 a year. When it came time for our official HOA hearing over the matter, we had successfully postponed it, thanks to an attorney friend, 3 separate times. There were over 100 back and forth emails with the HOA attorney and ourselves. Each one of those emails was a 15-minute expense for the HOA, and I was happy to follow up a follow-up question with another follow-up question if it meant the HOA attorney was going to keep billing them. We didn't actually want to take this battle to court, so we ended up removing the cameras the day of the hearing to prevent being fined, even if the fine wouldn't hold up in court. The HOA decided in the hearing that we were guilty, surprise surprise, of violating the bylaw. They couldn't fine us, as the bylaws don't allow a fine until after a hearing has been held, and the cameras were already removed. In the end, the punishment was a sternly written piece of paper on the attorney's letterhead, delivered via certified mail, that stated that we were, quote, not allowed to place a camera on our home that had the potential to invade a neighbor's privacy. Keep in mind, the letter specifically stated the camera could not be placed on our home. We left the cameras off of the home for 4 months, until the annual HOA meeting. You should have seen the look on the HOA board's faces when I asked them to explain the $4,000 line item for attorney's fees that simply stated, title searches, attorney fees. The board actually tried to hide the fact that they spent $4K trying to fight us over a couple of cameras by putting the fees in as title searches. Needless to say, that meeting did not go well for them. About half of them lost their positions on the board. The other half, including Karen, unfortunately, remained on the board. About a week after the annual meeting, we installed new cameras, facing the same direction as the prior cameras. Only this time, we installed a post in the ground and mounted the cameras to that post. The admonishment we received after the hearing specifically stated that we were not allowed to install cameras on our home, and said nothing about putting them on a post. They did send a letter trying to tell us to remove the cameras, but a sternly worded response indicating that we were prepared to fight them actually worked this time around. I guess they didn't want to spend another $4K fighting us. We didn't receive any follow-up responses, and the cameras on the post are still installed to this day, over 2 years and running strong. Friend's little brother gets mailed. Way back in the day, circa 1986, my brother and I lived with our mom, her new husband, and my stepbrother, out in the country. Where we lived, there was 5 things to do for fun: hunting, fishing, football, swimming, and riding ATVs. If you didn't like doing any of those, well, you were shit out of luck. For my birthday that year, my dad had given me a little German Shepherd / St. Bernard mixed puppy. I named her Fluffy because she was a little ball of fluff. What do you want? I was 10 years old. Fast forward 6 months, and Fluffy was not quite so fluffy anymore, nor was she small. She was a fierce protector of my brother and I, and much beloved by us and our friends. Our next door neighbors had 2 boys, one my age and one a few years younger. They also had a giant 4-wheeler, one of those big ones that you use for hunting in the backwoods. Their younger son was a spoiled a-hole, could do no wrong in his mother's eyes, and the rest of us kids absolutely hated him. His brother would get in trouble for not letting him tag along with us when we were playing. His parents would also let him ride the 4-wheeler around the neighborhood, really a couple of dirt roads that crossed each other. In any case, he was much too young to be riding around on his own. One fine day, we were all outside playing, and the little a-hole was riding around on the ATV. He was crossing back and forth through the yard in between our houses, and after a few back and forth passes, he saw Fluffy, who was laying in the sun. He made a beeline for her with the ATV, narrowly missing running her over when she got up and dodged. Of course, all of us older kids started yelling at him. Of course, his mother, who was outside as well, yelled at us for yelling at her baby, spouting stuff like, "He's just playing. He didn't mean any harm. He wasn't really going to run her over," etc. In the middle of the yelling match, he tried to run her over again. At this point, I had had beyond enough, so I took up my sword and advanced to do battle. Yes, I said sword. Don't get all upset, it was a plastic toy sword. At most, it would have bruised him a little. I know, as I speak from experience. Anyway, he rode away laughing at us, taunting that he was gonna get my stupid dog. Unfortunately for him, he was not watching where he was going. You ever see someone take a mailbox to the face? Well, if you haven't, my friends, I'm here to tell you that it was glorious. The mailbox, like most out in the country, was on a wooden post and stuck out in front. While riding the ATV, he was at the perfect height for the ATV to pass underneath the mailbox unimpeded. The ATV, not him. He was at the perfect height to catch a face full of mailbox. Having turned to look where he was going, when his mom screamed at him to, well, look out where you're going. It also didn't help him that in his effort to run away from us, he had that ATV running pretty much flat out. Ever watch Wile E. Coyote hit the tunnel while riding a rocket, and the rocket keeps on going through the tunnel while Wile E. Coyote stops in midair and falls? It was like that, but with more of a metallic thwomp sound. The little a-hole hits the mailbox, then hits the dirt. Of course, he starts crying like his very soul got knocked out of him. Of course, we are all dying laughing. Of course, his mother is beyond pissed at us for laughing at her baby's misfortune. She was yelling at us, running over to her baby, while I yelled back at her that he got what he deserved for trying to run over my dog. She came over to the house later on, after my mom had gotten home from work, to complain to her. Having already heard the story from me, my brother, and my stepbrother, my mom told her off about her kid being a spoiled little who got what he deserved for trying to run over my dog, and if he tried it again, she was going to call CPS. To this day, whenever I'm having a bad day, the memory of him hitting that mailbox and landing flat on his back never fails to bring a smile to my face. Karen mad about new patient paperwork being inclusive. I work at a fertility clinic and received a call today from a potential new patient. She said she was going to go to a different clinic, but says she decided not to because their new patient paperwork caters to homosexuals. She elaborated saying it asks for pronouns, preferred name, says partner/spouse instead of husband, etc. She wanted to know if our paperwork also caters exclusively to homosexuals because of that phrasing. I informed her that our paperwork is phrased to be inclusive, as we do help heterosexual, homosexual, and trans patients at our clinic. She suggested that we should have separate paperwork for homosexuals, and that our main paperwork should be catered towards heterosexual Christian women like herself, to respect her religious beliefs, because the inclusive wording doesn't apply to her, and will not be coming to our clinic because of this. Thank God. We are a fertility clinic, for f***'s sake. We help all types of people who want to have a baby. And yes, that includes same-sex couples. We also do egg freezing and store sperm for patients who are transitioning. Good luck finding a clinic that exclusively caters to Christian heterosexual women. That is it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Consider hitting that like button, I'd really appreciate it. And also subscribe to the channel for more. And with that, I'm out of here, so until next time.